Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Horse's Mouth Live, the Extraordinary Advisor Show. My name is Ellen Rogin, and as always, I have fabulous guests to help you in every area of your life, especially your business. And we are so lucky today to have Heather Ettinger with us, and I'll give you her formal bio in a minute. But we're talking about this amazing opportunity working in the women's market, working with specific niches. And don't any of you call women a niche, right? They're 51% of the population. Or you'll see me going like this to you. They are not a niche, but it's an amazing market to work in. And yet there's still like a mismatch between the way the industry is serving women and the opportunities out there. Getting ready for today, I was thinking about this is how I met Horse's Mouth to begin with. Oh, so many years ago, I had commented on an article that was in Horse's Mouth. I gave a long response to it that was about working with women. And Sean Bailey, the editor of Horse's Mouth, called me on the phone. And that's where our relationship started, where I've been writing. And as you may or may not know, I've been doing a podcast and now the live cast for many years for Horse's Mouth. So this is a topic that, as we were getting ready for today, I said to Heather, like, oh my God, I can't believe we're still talking about this. And she said, you know what, we're going to be for a while because there's a lot of work to be done. So I met Heather many years ago, maybe not many, but many years ago at an investment news conference. I was moderating a panel she was speaking on where she was sharing her research on breadwinner women. And she struck me as not only so brilliant at understanding this market, but having an amazing practice. And then we recently reconnected on LinkedIn because I saw she had a new book come out and was thrilled that she agreed to be here with us. So for those of you that may have not read any of Heather's information that she has out there or seen her, I want to make sure you know about her background. She's a champion for women and girls for over 30 years. Heather Ettinger is widely recognized across the industry for her dedication in helping women build their financial acumen and their philanthropic legacy. She's culminated this in the creation of Luma Wealth Advisors, which was formed in 2017. She specializes in helping clients align their resources and their family values to impact their communities. She has a best-selling book, as I mentioned, called Lumination: Shining a Light on a Woman's Journey to Financial Wellness. Has co-authored 2 studies on women in wealth and highlighting the really individualized needs of women so that we're not lumping them all together, that this is what women need. She's been quoted all over the place, Wall Street Journal, Barron's, so known in the industry as a leader in this. So Heather, welcome. So glad to spend this time with you today.
Ellen, just really appreciate the opportunity. And I'm thrilled to be here with a friend and a fellow advocate for women as clients.
Yeah, this has really been around what drives me to do the work that I do, because I see women ultimately, and no offense guys out there, but ultimately being the change makers in the world. And when more women can stand in their power around money and stop asking, am I going to be okay? And how much can I give? I just see things changing. So this work with advisors to having them be just better, sharpening the saw at working in the women's market has always been something so important to me, and clearly the work that you're doing. So why is the industry failing so badly at addressing women's needs?
So I think, we, in all fairness, the industry was really created predominantly by white men for white men, and that's not a knock one way or the other. But as time has evolved, some things need to change. And here's the interesting part. The majority of women want an advisor, but only about 25% have one. And 80% of women, according to a PIMCO study, leave meetings feeling misunderstood. And Ellen, as I think you know, in the research that I did in the first study I did on women of wealth, why does the financial services industry still not hear them? Which, believe it or not, came out 10 years ago. but is still really a foundational piece. Here's the key. 96% of women said, I need an advisor to show that they heard me, they understood me, they know what's unique about me and my family before they give me advice. So that's really important, is the discovery process. I think the second thing is that women are going to be more focused on how advisors are going to improve their quality of life, as opposed to how they're going to manage or help them manage their finances. And in fact, there is a study out there that 78% of women say they would hire an advisor if the advisor was more focused on their quality of life versus investment performance. And I think the third is we have to understand what are their barriers to hiring an advisor. And there are really three things. The first is lack of trust. So they want to build a trusting relationship, and that's going to be built much more on advice than it is product. The second is you have to understand, I don't know a woman in the world that has time. So lack of time. Create a process that is efficient and really shows a respect for their time, particularly if you're dealing with breadwinner women, but quite frankly, that is really across the board. And the third is the lack of transparency that we have around fees. And they really want you to be forthcoming with fees and letting them know exactly what are they paying for, what are going to be the benefits, and how you're charging for it.
That lack of trust being a barrier is so interesting to me because, as I'm out looking at advisors' websites or ones that I'm doing some consulting with, and I see I am a trusted advisor, or we have integrity as one of our values, there's clearly a mismatch between what they're saying is important and what they're actually communicating or delivering to their women clients. So what kind of opportunity does this open for advisors that are keyed into these needs and how to really serve their women clients more effectively?
Well, I think, first of all, Oliver Wyman estimates that the opportunity is the $700 billion missed opportunity. I think there's also a real, and by the way, this is women and their families, whatever that makeup may be. But here's some of the opportunities that are out there. Number one is that women really want a relationship. And so when they do hire an advisor, chances are they're going to stick with you for a long time unless you really mess up. And not only that, they tend to refer at a rate of about 4-to-1 over men. I often say they refer up a generation, across the generation, and down a generation. And so it really, if you want to understand women, I often joke, we all go to each other and ask for advice. I need a new hairdresser, or I need a new, OBGYN. I go to my girlfriends and ask, right? Well, they do with advisors too. So if you get into specific niches, which I'm sure we'll talk about, that really presents the opportunity. And I think as you think about the process, I would encourage you to use a different mindset. And again, the mindset is really about managing life. So when I wrote the book Lumination, what I was looking for is a way to reframe the dialogue that would resonate more with women around managing life. So in our industry, we have a habit of kind of treating money as the what, right? Because we charge on AUM fees or other types of fees that maybe aren't as reflective of really the advice as opposed to the product. So here's a good way to maybe think about it. Number one is the what is not the money. The what is really their life. And what does that include? Well, that includes relationships, that includes their health, that includes job purpose, spirituality, community, and play. And their why is at the center of that. If you're a Simon Sinek fan, you really got to discover what's their why, what drives them. And it's not just priorities and goals, it's really values. And that really, particularly for women, means that you need to explore their relationship with money. What were the money messages they received, and how has that impacted their relationship with money today? And quite frankly, is going to influence their relationship with you. If they've had negative messages, etc., you're going to have to be pretty empathetic and help them work through that. So that's the why. The what, as I said, is the 6 areas of life. And then the how is, yes, financial capital, but it's also human capital. How do they choose to spend their time and talent? And so there again is another opportunity, because if she's a working woman, you can help her with negotiating or making sure she's taking advantage of her benefits and those types of things. So it won't simply be what's in the retirement account or what's in the investment account. It's going to be much broader than that in terms of the advice that you can bring to the table.
Oh, there's so much gold in there, Heather. I mean, I was thinking as you were talking about referrals, I had pods of my women clients and they did refer their friends to me. And then this loyalty thing can actually almost be a detriment. I remember working with some people that would come in, women that would come in, and they'd be like, oh, my advisor never calls me. I don't really feel like he listens to me. I'm generalizing, but those examples were men. And they would say all these, like, list all these reasons. I'm like, why are you still there? But it was hard for them to even break away when they were really not even being served. But yeah, they do value the relationship. And like, how lovely is that? Wouldn't you want that as an advisor, to be dealing with someone who values the relationship versus just the rate of return, which you may think you have a lot of control over, but really, like, if there's a big shock to the market, you have no control over that. So how do people set themselves apart from like this sea of pink font, or just saying, it kind of bugs me sometimes when I see on people's websites, like, depending how they're talking about the women that they work with, it sometimes comes off as super condescending. So like, what is there a balance, or do you have suggestions how an advisor can really set themselves apart in addition to some of the things you've already shared?
Yes. So I, of course, love that question, Ellen. The key is, really pick a couple niches that resonate with you. So one of my male partners, he lost his father at a pretty young age and watched his mom and everything she dealt with. So he is very good with widows because he's got that empathy factor. Or maybe it's breadwinner women. I tend to work very well with breadwinner women because I am one. I get it. I know the challenges. And one of the things we do in that space, for example, is help connect them not only with traditional advisors, being CPAs or estate planners, but non-traditional advisors. Maybe they need their kid tested for learning differences. Maybe they need elder care resources. So pick a niche, do your research on that niche. What are the pain points? And I'll give you a hint. You can start with even the first study I did or the breadwinner study, because they're going to give you some ideas within there. And really think about, what are you solving for? What's the pain point? So if it's, this last year, if it was a business owner, one of the things that we did, of course, was the PPP loans to help get them through that. They didn't have time to do it. If it's a breadwinner woman, consider this. In our study, 46% of those women knew they were leaving money on the table. Not just, couldn't or didn't know and didn't take advantage. No, they knew it. They still didn't have the time to go through all those benefits. So I think that's something that's really important that you need to help solve for, right? Or if it's a widow, there's a fear factor, and you can take them to the Social Security office. That's a really scary first trip to do as a widow. Go with her maybe to the bank, or have a family member join her in that. Show her a transition plan for all the assets and what advisors are going to be taking the lead. Help her open mail. and see what's in the mail. I know that sounds pretty basic, but they get a lot of fraudulent mail, and so they become paralyzed. So those are just a few things to think about. And as I said, really think about specializing in some niches, and then also think about the pain points. And then, because you mentioned it, Ellen, I'll also add a little story. Somebody was trying to woo us and showed me their website, and the landing page was 6 white guys. And I said, you don't need to go any farther. He's like, no, I want to show you all this cool stuff. I said, you've already offended me. Like, nobody there looks like me. So think about your website and the images, and I would say not the retired couple walking down the beach, please. Or also think about your office. Women make up their minds in the first 7 seconds as to whether they're going to feel welcomed. So think about that as they walk into your office building or your home or whatever. Is it an inclusive setting? So those are a few other things to think about if you want to be active in this marketplace.
I have lots of questions for you, Heather, but let's start with the office. So what would make it feel more inclusive, or what would be a turnoff in those first 7 seconds?
So I think having some color does help. I think also when we redesigned our offices to be more inclusive, we thought of it as people walking into our home as opposed to walking into an office. We have more round tables. Don't have them meet on the other side of a desk. That's a you are literally putting up a barrier in front of them. For our meetings with widows, we have a room that is just all couches and chairs, no tables, no desks. And that way, for our widows or divorcees, they can come in with a friend or family member, and we can all just sit there as if we're in their home and have a conversation. I would say avoid any of the I used to joke, but duck and dog prints. And I love dogs. My husband's a dog trainer. But just really think about, we did a splash of purple because I didn't want it to be so feminine with bright pink or something. I really wanted it to be also inclusive of men. So you know, a lot of the breadwinner women now have yes, the lead career, but in some cases their husband, if they're in a traditional marriage, is staying home and taking care of the kids. Well, we want him to feel comfortable too. So really think of it from that perspective of welcoming a family as opposed to just women or just men. And how can you make that just pop and feel warmer and more inviting?
Good. I can check a bunch of those boxes. I am not seeing clients in that way anymore, but we have yellow walls and deeper yellow out in the hallway. I used to have a round table behind me since I've changed things around here, but I couldn't agree more. I remember one of the firms I was talking to before I left my business had a big TV with like the financial channel up in the waiting room. And I was like, I was getting anxious sitting there. And I was like, I thought, why would you possibly do that in the waiting room? And so I think that idea of making people, I don't think it matters if they're men or women, people get anxious when it comes to money stuff. They may express it or not. So those are just such great examples.
Ellen, on that point, I'm just going to add that this is a universal issue, and that in this country right now, over 70% of Americans, regardless of socioeconomic status, say their largest source of stress is financial. So you're right, the TV, you're raising their anxiety level. So you want to do whatever you can to create a little bit more sense of calm for anybody walking through that door.
I couldn't agree more with that. So in terms of either doing events or educational programs for women, what are some things you found have been really successful or that your clients have been open to?
Well, so I think financial literacy is really important. And when we say financial literacy, it really does need to be just financial education. Keep the sales pitch out of it. If you try to prove you're the smartest person in the room and get in tons of detail, they're going to walk out with very little. So just have a couple key takeaways. Create a safe environment. We do small, interactive sessions. Most women learn best through anecdotes and stories and through comparative examples. Most women do not learn best by just auditory learning. So keep that in mind. As much as you can, tell stories that they're going to be able to relate to and let them interact. We always do an icebreaker in the beginning of money messages they've received and how it's impacted them. And either, usually we share it as a group, and I start with mine and tell my story, so it just kind of gets the ball rolling. What happens in that is they start to realize most women come in with this kind of woulda, shoulda, coulda, guilt, shame, whatever. That's what you're trying to break down and make them feel better. What they realize by telling those stories about their money messages and their money journey, they have a lot more commonality in the room than they do difference. Mm-hmm. And so that starts to put them at ease, and then they can start to learn. So that's one thing. Create this kind of safe environment, this connection with each other. Absolutely have them invite a friend or family member. I kind of joke, women often go to the ladies' room in groups. Just think of it that way. We do feel a little bit more comfortable, and keep it small and give them resources and tools. And again, they will help connect with each other. The other thing I see, Ellen, is, and I would love to say social events, and social events are good, but you still want to make sure they're intentional. So what do I mean by that? When we put together a social group, let's say we're doing our infamous deck parties or dinner parties, right? It may look like we just invited a bunch of women, but actually what we've done is we've taken some are clients, some are prospects or leads, and we are saying to them, hey, Ellen, I have a breadwinner woman that I would love you to reach out to over the course of the evening and just tell her a little bit about what you know about your experience with us. And clients love to help. And so we don't have to sell at all during the night. We don't do any formal presentations or anything like that. Where we do have presentations is with business owners, and we have something called Luminary Leaders, and there we showcase one of the women's businesses. And again, but we also ask for confidentiality, and we don't let in CPAs or estate planners or lawyers or any of that, so that the women can be in a group of just business owners and share with each other. So again, you're thinking of it as the niche. What are you trying to solve for? In that case, we're trying to provide connection with other women business owners who are in a like situation. The social events that we do, we're also creating that connection, maybe a widow with a widow, it may be a divorcee with a divorcee. And then the financial literacy events is really thinking about, how can you create a safe environment for them to learn?
Love that. And the connection is so important. When we were writing our book, Picture Your Prosperity, we had done a few focus groups with some of my then clients. And I invited a group of, 10 women. And we basically just asked them, we had a lovely dinner and we asked them questions. The end of the night, they're hugging each other. They're thanking us for it. And it's because we did create that safe space to have this conversation. We learned a ton and they got to connect with each other. So brilliant to do that. And I think especially now, given coming wherever we are with quarantine or not, people feeling safe, I think smaller events are ones that if people are showing up in person, just feel better than kind of a big event. I like them better anyways. But this is all so fabulous. You and I can talk forever about this, but it looked like you were about to say something, Heather. You want to
I was going to say, do track your success with it. I would love to say the social events are, the ones that drove the most business, and I would tell you the financial literacy ones were. But to your point, small events are by far better. A big room, much harder for you to know as the advisor how to follow up with them. In a small event, you can do very personalized follow-up. So that's another reason to do the small event. So good point, Ellen.
Yeah, and you're like the hub, you're the connector. So they're, whether they work with you now or just think about you, they're like, oh, Heather's the one who put us together. She's an amazing person. And you're also, as the advisor, giving them a sense of who you are without even talking specifically about what you do. So there's, I was, the first time I heard you speak, there was no surprise you had such a successful business, but it's just, you're so deliberate about what you do. And I would also say how they're so service oriented. Like, yes, you guys are going to win at your firm, but only after all your clients and their families win as well. So I just love your approach.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, as you know, this is one of the most rewarding businesses, and particularly when you focus on relationship and advice. You can really inspire families, which is our core purpose. That's what we want to do. And when I think back over my career in the last 30 years, I don't say, oh, it's because we had great investments and they made a lot of money, which is true. I think about the events where we really, meaning life events, where they were going through a major transition or where we really helped them see something that they hadn't seen before. And it opened up new opportunities, it improved relationships in the family, whatever it may be. And that's really the rewarding part of the business. And quite frankly, that's what they're going to remember. They're not going to remember the investment returns a year later, 2 years later. They're going to be much more focused on how did you impact my life and the life of my family.
Beautiful. Heather, if people want to learn more about you, find your reports, get your book, where should they go?
So a great place to go is lumawealth.com. And if you go to the resources, you'll see the 2 studies I did with Family Wealth Advisors Council, which is my study group, and co-wrote with my good friend, Eileen O'Connor. And then also a bunch of other good resources there. Feel free to sign up for our newsletters and all. You'll see we give a lot more advice on kind of life as opposed to just finances. And then also my Twitter is at Heather Insight. And I really focus on more advocacy for women and girls in those posts. Of course, LinkedIn. And lastly, the book Illumination is available both at Amazon and also through Barnes and Noble. And I think if you read the book, it will give you great tools. And I do have a workbook coming, great tools to work with your clients and great questions to ask them to build a deeper relationship.
And I know you have a special offer for 5 quick advisors, right? So tell us about that, Heather.
Yes. So the special offer is for the first 5 advisors that reach out. And I apologize, Ellen, because it was sent by my marketing team. But I think that reach out, I'm not sure, is it to my email or?
It's right on the bottom of the screen.
Great. Right on the bottom of the screen. First 5 people to reach out, I will send you a free signed copy of Illumination. And I think you'll find, first of all, personally, it's not just for women, it's for women and men. And I do use a lot of stories in there, so it is not a completely dry read. And I hope you'll really enjoy the book, and it'll give you some tools to work with some female clients and their families.
Beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for being here today. Such great information. And I'm sure advisors listening today are walking away with ideas they can put into place right away. So thank you, Heather.
It is a pleasure, Ellen. And it's been really nice to reconnect with, I'm not going to say old friend, a long-standing friend and champion in the industry.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to all of you watching and listening. Again, my name is Ellen Rogin, and you can find out more about me at ellenrogin.com. And if you go to ellenrogin.com /horse's mouth, you can download my special report, What Extraordinary Advisors Know That Others Don't. And so the question to ponder today is, how big of a positive impact are you willing to make? And I'll say specifically today with your women clients. Remember, be great and create great every single day.